primary invention is the machine vision system, of which I presently hold about 17 patents. It evolved over a number of years, and it generally is used today, or quite often is used in combination with the industrial robot, the industrial manipulator, which is a computer-controlled manipulator of tools and materials, and is used throughout most all industries that have automatic manufacturing as a base. Along with the robot, the industrial robot, which is quite often controlled by a machine vision system. And by the way, a machine vision system is a system that employs a television camera or other form of electro-optical scanning system to tell the computer just what is in the field of vision or view of the camera or the scanning system, and also what objects are in the field of view, where they are, how they are oriented, so that a robot may properly handle these objects or perform operations on them.
I'm wondering what it is about those inventions, the machine vision inventions, that you feel makes them stand apart from the many other things that you've done, that it makes them so significant.
Well, I think it amounts to the broad applications that the machine vision concept have been utilized throughout many industries, most of the mechanized industries. Today, just about every automobile that is produced employs numerous machine vision systems to check the quality of the parts and the assemblies, control the welding and robots that operate on the bodies of the automobiles, and perform many different operations, or I'll say control and measure many different operations. The system is even employed in the fish industry today to sort fish. It's employed in many produce areas to sort fruit and vegetables. Probably one of the reasons why the fruits and vegetables that you buy today are almost totally void of rotten components of them, rotten parts. They're totally eliminated during the initial inspection operation. And the machine vision system is utilized in many operations to sort out rejectable fruits and vegetables on the basis of color, primarily.
What are your earliest memories of inventing? Did you invent as a kid?
I didn't really invent as a kid. I had ideas. I applied some of these ideas to my hobbies in those days, which were building model airplanes. It wasn't until, I'd say, shortly after I got out of the Army that I made a viable invention in my head and on paper at the time. I never patented it because I don't think I really knew what a patent was in those days, but it was a lighted tongue depressor instrument that a doctor could use. My father was a doctor, and like most doctors in those days, he used a wooden tongue depressor in one hand and a flashlight in the other to look into the mouth and down the throat of the patient. This required two hands, so that if you wanted to do something with one of the two hands other than look down the throat, he couldn't do it. He had to drop the tongue depressor on the light and pick up some sort of an instrument to further apply a medication or spray something in the mouth. So I thought of a single tongue depressor that also contained a light attached to it, And I recall I talked to my dad about it. He thought it was a good idea, but I really didn't know what to do with it. So it died at the time. And it wasn't until several years later that I began to think of viable new products, primarily toys in the beginning and gadgets, and then eventually machine tools and machine tool systems.
You've invented so many different things, and yet it's only very recently that your name has become known at all to the public. And I know from my experience just working with you and hearing about other people like Ray Demadian, I know that none of these are names that I knew before I started working with you. Why is it that we know Edison and we know Bell and we know the Wright brothers, but for some reason today's inventors are not very prominent?
Well, I don't really know why this has happened, why the interest that the public had in innovation at the turn of this century would not continue throughout the century. One of the reasons may have been in that with the advent of television, the public was able to see for almost firsthand sports in action. And a good portion of our public today spends an awful lot of time looking at ball games. It may be that they're so preoccupied with the things that appear on television. And I'm not saying that innovation is not, to some degree, demonstrated on television. It's just not, in my opinion, given the stature that it deserves. Public television itself does have programs on innovation and invention. What next? What are some of the other programs that they have? Okay. But I think the emphasis is too much on the non-technical things on television.
But I also think, I wonder, Jerry, I read the newspapers and I listen to NPR and I do all this, but when I think about somebody like a Ray Demadian, even though I know that what he's invented is very significant, it certainly is not going to have the direct impact on my daily life that Alexander Graham Bell had.
Correct.
And is there something about how much technology we already have that makes these things maybe a little less dramatic to the public, in public perception than, Edison's light bulb or Alexander Graham Bell's telephone?
Well, I think part of the reason is that many of the things that we enjoy today that make our life more interesting are invisible to the human eye. I mean, we know that there is a VCR available to us and a television set and a camcorder. But then the question is, what's inside these devices? The microchips, the breakthroughs in the sensors of light, etc. Many of these devices are team efforts developed by a group of people, either at one company or a group of companies, and to single out one inventor and say, here's the man who invented this small component that may go into a consumer electronic device, it's not easy to do. There are too many people involved in many of the inventions that are made today. That may be one of the reasons why it's difficult to point your finger at one person and say, here's a Marconi who invented certain aspects of radio, or Edward Armstrong who invented modern aspects of radio. For some reason or other, we have lost the ability to give credit to those who have made our lives so much better and so much more interesting.